Lovely to see so many of you here. Thank you for coming. Now, before I start, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Could you put your hand up if you run your own business? Put your hands up if you've actually employed people. Keep your hands up if you've employed someone you wish you hadn't. My name is Chris Davey, and I've been running businesses for 25 years. And like many of you, I've employed hundreds of people, some of which I wish I hadn't. So I'm in the same boat as many of you here. I'm also the interim branch chair for the North West Essex constituency. So standing here in Kemmy's backyard. Yay! I've only got 9 minutes left of the presentation, so I need to crack on a bit. We're on a very tight schedule. So at the very end of my part, I'm going to ask you one question, so please bear that in mind. Now, let me set the scene. In May of 24, I was surprised that the general election was called for July. At the time, I was like so many of you, disillusioned about the state of the country and the inevitable Labour government. So although always keeping myself informed in my involvement in politics was purely discussing with mates down the pub, and dealing with the fallout. But I've had enough of this two-party back and forth of the same. So I decided in September to go to the Reform UK conference in Birmingham. What I felt connected. I felt the party believes got the right approach to get us back on track. And for me, it actually spoke to me, for me. So I came back from the meeting and I decided to stand and become the branch chairman. I'm quite pushy. I don't know a lot about politics and mechanics, but I've lived in the real world and I've also run businesses. I know the highs, I know the lows, unlike the current government. In fact, many who have never actually run businesses and put their own houses on the line, like us. Some of them lying on their CVs. Big picture policies are good, but it's the ideas and it's the implementation. We need to, I feel, get back to focusing on some of the small things. For me, I have a phrase, business is the fuel for growth and a growing economy benefits everyone. Thank you. So why am I standing here? So last Thursday night, I met a good friend of mine. We were sitting having some drinks at a local pub, as we've done for the last 30 years. Of course, talking politics, which came up. But instead of the usual conversation, what have the Tories got wrong? It was more, in God's name, what are Labour doing to this country? And we've got at least 4 more years of this. So I get a phone call, and it's Kira from Reform headquarters. Hello, Chris. Nigel would ask, would you do a 10-minute speech at the event on 31st January? Yeah, no problem. I replied. I put the phone down and I went, help. So here is the leader of Reform UK asking someone like me, a normal person with limited political experience, who has a genuine passion for working hard, its country, its people, and economic growth, to stand up and address this target rally. I consider myself a normal person. I'm deeply honoured, and I was told that actually to lead, you need to listen to your followers. Nigel knew this long before Kemi thought she'd invented it. What I personally want to talk to you today, as I've said, is about business. I've worked in them, I've built them from scratch, I've made lots of mistakes. I've learned from those mistakes, I've started again, and I even got through COVID. I know about business, and I know Reform, for me, is the only party that is actually going to support us as business people. Remember, business is the fuel for growth, and a growing economy benefits everyone. We need to address the pressing issue that affects the very backbone of our economy, and that is the lack of support from the current government for business people in the UK. Our entrepreneurs, small businesses, owners, innovators are the driving force behind our nation's prosperity. Yet they face numerous challenges and attacks from the government that hinder their growth and success. Business is the fuel for growth, and a growing economy benefits everyone. As of 2024, you probably know in the UK, had approximately 5.5 million small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, accounting for 99% of the total business population. The current and expected future lack of support for business people under this Labour government and previous Conservative government is unacceptable. High taxes, burdensome regulations, limited access to funding, they're all stifling the potential for our entrepreneurs and our businesses. Off script a little bit for a moment, a friend of mine runs a high-end kitchen company, and he said since the last budget, he's now got to sell 5 more high-end kitchens just to stand still, about £150,000 of turnover where he was 6 months ago. How on earth is that supporting business? It's not. So his options are to work harder, sell more, or lose staff. And the chances are he's going to have to lose staff. That's not great for the economy. So we must take immediate action to create a more favourable environment for businesses to flourish here in the UK. Remember, business is the fuel for growth, and a growing economy benefits. There you go. First, we must reduce business taxes to spur reinvestment and job creation. We need to streamline the tax system to help companies focus on growing and succeeding to make money. Labour is useless. Reform will sort this. Second, we must cut through the red tape that entangles our business community. Excessive regulations stifle innovation and create unnecessary barriers to entry for new businesses. Labour is useless. Reform will sort this. Third, we must improve access to funding for businesses. Many entrepreneurs and existing businesses struggle to secure the capital they need to start or expand their ventures. We need to create more opportunities for businesses with access to affordable financing. Labour is useless. Reform will sort this. I will unashamedly say it again. Business is the fuel for growth, and a growing economy benefits everyone. You get where I'm going. Next, we must foster a culture of entrepreneurship and innovation. Labour is useless. Reform UK will sort this. We must recognise that our business community is not just a collection of profit-seeking entities that the government can raid. It's not fair. They are the creators of jobs, the innovators of new technologies, and the providers of essential goods and services. They are the lifeblood of our economy, and it is our duty to ensure they receive the support they need to thrive. Business is the fuel for growth, and a growing economy benefits everyone. When I go to business forums and meetings, there are lots of comments about successful people. He or she is a very successful business person. Okay, they've made millions, but many of us don't. Many of us work hard, providing us with what we need right here in our local communities, and they are just getting by. Are they any less worthy? No. We need to help and support these people and these businesses. It is very difficult out there. In fact, I feel they are our heroes. I'm talking about the majority of small business owners who had the sleepless nights. We've all had those. The worry about making enough money to pay the bills, pay our staff. In fact, who would in the right mind actually want to set up a company in the UK right now under Labour? No one. No one. There's no incentive. This government makes it tough. Without entrepreneurship, the government actually has no income. It's the people that generate the money who should, I feel, be considered the heroes, as I said earlier. It's the entrepreneurs and the business owners that should be getting the awards, the OBEs, the MBEs, not Sadiq Khan. Not Sadiq Khan, the nightmare of London. Okay. And the other government cronies. We need to support businesses, and this is rarely considered. Socialism is living off, no, in fact, killing off the private sector, reducing the ability for company directors and workers to create wealth. The public sector, as you know, doesn't actually create any wealth, really, despite what the biased broadcasting corporation says. That's my opinion. As a business, we need people back to work. For myself, it's getting ridiculous. Mental health is mentioned every day. Working from home applications are coming through. Even our police force want to work from home. Who's going to police our streets? Teachers working from home. Who are going to look after our children, our future? They need human contact. As a business owner, I want people to just turn up, do the job, not deal with the increasing time wasting that I have of being an unpaid tax collector, to the crippling HR rules that are all in favour, more and more so, of the employee. Yes, employees need law, legislation, but the tide has gone too far now. But don't get me wrong, the employees, but what about the employers? They need protection, but not to the extreme where we are now. It's gone too far. DEI legislation is against small businesses, making it easier for employees to sue the companies that took them on in good faith. We've all been there. Business is the fuel for growth, and a growing economy benefits. Excellent. In conclusion, the lack of support for business people in the UK is a critical issue that demands our immediate attention. Reform UK will reduce taxes, cut the red tape, improve access to funding, and foster a culture of entrepreneurship. We can create an environment where businesses can thrive and drive our nation's prosperity. It's a win-win. Reform UK will get this, and they will do this. So, Rally, I'm sure we'll all agree for the last time, business is the fuel for growth, and a growing economy benefits everyone. Marvellous. So, reformers, at the start, I mentioned my question. You may have noticed a few times I've said, business is the fuel for growth and a growing economy benefits everyone. But let me ask, do you feel Labour has done anything to fuel business growth? I don't. I'm not benefiting one bit at the moment, and I'm sure none of you are. It's our job, the People's Army, to collectively get the message out there, not only in this target constituency, which Kemi thinks is secure. Look at us here today, all of us. But across the UK, to voters, the difference we will experience under a far superior Prime Minister, Nigel Farage. Right, if you want to make a difference, then please take some time to meet some of my lovely colleagues who are sitting at the front here, who will take your details, try and convert those who are supporters into members and donators, and also into activists to come and help. Please see them. They'll be at the back later on. Please come and get involved. If you want to stand as a candidate, we'll help you. And if you want to make a donation at our local campaign, for our local campaign in Essex, there's a blue bucket just down here, which we'll be passing round. Thank you very much, Rally. Very much. I'm now going to hand over to the Reform UK Member of Parliament for Great Yarmouth, Rupert Lowe, MP.
Well, thank you everybody for that welcome. What a pleasure it is to be here this evening with so many like-minded patriots in North West Essex on the 5th anniversary of Brexit. I can assure you my recent contributions in Westminster have been in front of far less welcoming crowds. I hope to finally finish a speech without being warned over my tone by a belly-aching socialist. Let's see. Essex is a good place, filled with good people. The Essex man. A fine blend of Roman settlers and the Catavalorni. A personification of common sense and British logic. He believes in strong borders, low tax and rewarding hard work. He's passionate about his country. He intensely dislikes wokery and all the associated tripe. I say the country would be in a much better place with more Essex men in charge. When canvassing in Great Yarmouth, if I see a London Football Club crest in the window, West Ham in particular, I know we're onto a winner. We were dragged over the line in Norfolk by many decent Essex men and women who've migrated east. If that's the level of support for reform in East Anglia from the good people of this county, I can only imagine what it's like in Essex itself. But friends, be in no doubt that our country is in the most precarious position I can remember. And what is the root cause? Uncontrolled mass immigration. Immigration, immigration, immigration. Legal and illegal. If raising legitimate concerns about thousands and thousands of unchecked foreign males illegally entering our country makes me far right, then so be it. If objecting to these men, often from alien cultures that hold no respect for women, being housed in luxury accommodation at taxpayers' expense makes me a racist, then so be it. If believing that immigration should be strictly controlled and designed to solely benefit the British people makes me a bigot, then so be it. I do not care, and nor should you. For too long, our language has been policed and censored. Decent men and women have been forced into silence. I say no more. What has that sinister attitude led to? The mass rape of young working-class white girls by mainly Pakistani men on an industrial scale. That is a rotting stain on our country's history. I do not say this lightly, but it makes me ashamed to be British. We failed those girls, and heads must roll. I want deportations, not just for the rapists, but also the family members who are aware of their heinous crimes. If that results in tens of thousands of deportations, then that is what must happen. I want prosecutions for anyone in any position of authority who knew about these savages and did nothing, or even worse, concealed their crimes. Not just their dismissal, criminal prosecutions must follow. I want justice for anybody involved in these rape gangs. Should feel the full force of the law. Race and religion must protect no one. As a country, how did we let this happen to those poor young girls? Most horrifyingly, it's still happening today, right now as I speak to you tonight. Never forget that. Many of these monsters have even been released back into the same communities where the children they raped reside. Words appropriate on this stage cannot adequately describe what I think of these beasts. I don't want thoughts and prayers from government. I want action. Deportations of foreign nationals who have come to our country and committed serious crimes against the British people. Deportations of those arriving in our country illegally. Send a message: if you come here without permission, you will not stay under any circumstance. Two words: detain, deport. Deportations of those living in our country illegally. Recent estimates stated that up to 1 in 12 individuals living in our capital city are illegal migrants. I pushed the Home Office for a full review into the impact of illegal migrant crime on British women and girls. They refused. I ask, as I often do, who is this Home Office supposed to be serving? Between the 5th of July last year to the 4th of January this year, there were just 4,390 enforced returns of people with no legal right to remain. It's pathetic. In a recent debate with an immigration lawyer, another profession pork barreling a living, I was told that a deportation scheme on the scale required would be impossible, as it would take a flight leaving every hour. That sounds like a very good starting point to me. The message has to be clear. If you're in our country illegally, expect deportation. Implement that on the scale required, and the boats will stop overnight. I can promise you that. Just look at what we've done to ourselves. There is only one chance to save this country, and that is by electing a reform government in 2029 or before. We have been shown the way by one Donald John Trump. Certain moments go down in history as a fork in the road, and Elon Musk purchasing Twitter is one such event. Without that, there is no free speech. There is no Trump victory. There is no savior of the West. And for that, I am grateful. Now we can look to America as a source of hope and inspiration. I'm sure, like me, you've watched on with envy as Trump tears up the established order in the most spectacular fashion. Let's go through several of my favorites. Starting with the best, you'll love this one. He shut down all DEI programs within the federal government with immediate effect. Glorious music to my ears. We should call DEI what it is: anti-white racism. We must eradicate the poisonous diversity industry, scrap every DEI-related job, and judge people on merit and merit alone. I couldn't care if a workforce is diverse or inclusive. I only care if it's competent. That is all that matters. Up next, Trump declared there are only two genders. Male and female. Cancelling all programs that promote the dangerous and gender ideology. We must follow. I say keep that venom out of schools and away from impressionable young children. Leave our children alone. What about on government efficiency? Establish the Department of Government Efficiency, otherwise known as DOGE. Slashing waste, freezing new hires, banning work from home for public sector employees, and fighting government censorship. Common sense policies that should be replicated in Britain. And finally, on immigration, I prefer to keep it simple with the 2 Ds: detain, deport. This is how to properly govern. Watching Trump and the Americans, it has made me even more determined than ever to restore our unique country through a great repeal act when Labour falls at the next election, as surely it will. I don't particularly care if we're liked by the rest of the world. I care if we're respected, because right now, Britain is a joke, and it has been for some time. Take this, for example. £10 million was set aside for local inquiries into the rape gangs by the Labour government, just £10 million. This year alone, we sent £133 million to Pakistan in foreign aid. My view, scrap every single penny. Or at the very least, use it as a weapon to force the Pakistani government to accept their deported rapists and criminals. I want the British government to put the British people at the top of the agenda. We should make no apologies for that. Learn from Trump. Let's be unapologetically patriotic. Slash tax across the board. Enforce the border. Deport those with no right to be here. Accept biological reality. Fight back against wokery. Bulldoze nonsensical foreign aid. Eradicate DEI. Deliver sensible infrastructure. Carpet bomb public sector waste. Brutally crack down on crime. And plenty more. No speech of mine is complete without some apposite quotes. So I have 2 for you tonight. The first from England, Your England by George Orwell, where he observed the following. In left-wing circles, it is always felt that there is something slightly disgraceful about in being an Englishman, and that it is a duty to snigger at every English institution, from horse racing to suet puddings. It is a strange fact, but it is unquestionably true that almost any English intellectual would feel more ashamed of standing to attention during God Save the King than of stealing from a poor box. All through the critical years, many left-wingers were chipping away at English morale, trying to spread an outlook that was sometimes squashily pacifist, sometimes violently pro-Russian, but always anti-British. The second by Adam Smith in 1776, when he said, "Little else is requisite to carry a state to the highest degree of opulence from the lowest barbarism, but peace, easy taxes, and a tolerable administration of justice, all the rest being brought about by the natural course of things." I love Britain, I really do. We've got the best people in the world. We need a government that will put us first, protect our interests, and get the hell out of our way. We must all work together to ensure that Britain's relentless decline under numerous inept and pathetic governments comes to an end at the next general election. Then the Great Repeal Act can be followed by overdue national restoration. Let's make Great Britain great again. Thank you. Thank you.
Rupert Lowe MP, what a great speech. Next on the agenda is our Reform UK Member of Parliament for Ashfield, Lee Anderson MP.
Wow. Welcome, conference, and a happy new year to everybody. And it is indeed a pleasure to stand here tonight before the People's Army. I'm really chuffed you could be out. I know you've come, some of you've come a long way. Some of us give it a Friday night up. You've had to pay for childcare, etc. So a massive thank you from the bottom of my heart for you lot coming here today. Thank you very much. Listen, I've got a New Year's resolution. I want to be on this year's honours list. It's true. Let's face it, all I've got to do really in my constituency, Ashfield, which is the capital of common sense, yeah, all I've got to do is increase crime, make sure that the streets are unsafe, increase homelessness, and steal money from motorists and call everybody a racist. If I do that, I should be on the honours list. Oh, by the way, big congratulations to Mayor Khan, who just this month has received a knighthood. What a lovely man he is. You're probably all aware that the Mayor of London and I are very close friends. In fact, he is living proof that anything is possible in politics. But let's not be too harsh on Mayor Khan. He's a useless mayor of London because of him that stood here tonight in front of the People's Army, the Essex Division. So thank you for that. Yeah. In February last year, I made a few comments about the London man, which got me into a little bit of bother with the Conservative Party, and they took the whip away from me. And I was told I had to apologise to Mayor Khan, and I told them straight away, there's no way I would apologise to that man. He's ruined our capital city. It should be him that's apologising to the people of London. Look, this track record: robbery up, knife crime up, violent crime up, sexual crimes up. Not me that should be apologising, is it? It needs booting out of office. But as soon as the Tory party took his side against me, I knew the game was up. I knew that Reform UK was my destiny, and I then became Reform UK's first ever Member of Parliament. And for the first time, conference, I felt truly at home in my brief political career. I feel part of a truly amazing movement that's captured the hearts and minds of people around the country. People like you, true patriots. We're not far-right protesters. We're just decent, hard-working patriots who love our country and want to leave our country in a better state than when we arrived. Now, I know there's huge pressure on us 5 MPs to help get our country back, but this is a battle, conference, that we must win. I love my country, and so does Reform UK, which is why we will never apologise for our history, our heritage, and our culture. I think you know this next bit. Who wants the country back? Good answer. My message is clear. If you do not want to embrace our way of life, our history, our heritage, our culture, and respect our laws, then clear off. Simple as that. You know what? Parliament keeps trying to give our country away, but we must fight back. This useless Labour government wants to take more money from you lot and give it to other countries or people arriving here illegally. Net zero is making us all poorer. Our businesses pay the most expensive electricity prices in the whole of the world, which is costing jobs. Meanwhile, China is leading the way in renewables and yet still opening coal-fired power stations. It's madness. We are closing coal-fired blast furnaces so we can no longer make virgin steel. It is utter madness. This government is quite happy for us to import steel goods made from fossil fuels from all around the world, but we won't make it here. The hypocrisy is utterly staggering and will bankrupt our country unless we stop this madness. Drax Power Station in North Yorkshire used to produce electricity mined from coal from a nearby coal mine. But we decided to close the coal mine. And in our mad quest for net zero, we now import trees from North America. We put them on diesel guzzling cargo ships. We transport them over the Atlantic. And then we put them in Drax Power Stations, set fire to them to produce electricity. And that's classed as renewable energy. We're telling children they must plant more trees in this country, yet we're chopping them down in America and setting fire to them. It's madness. And all this is costing you lot £2 million a day in subsidies, in green subsidies, to keep this power station open, whilst our pensions are freezing to death because this wicked, cruel Labour government have taken away their winter fuel payment. It gets worse. My mate, Mad Miliband, what a lunatic he is. He thinks it's a good idea to spend £8 billion on GB Energy and £11.6 billion on foreign climate aid. We at Reform UK say no, this nonsense must end. This is our money and it needs to be spent in this country on British people. We all know, conference, that illegal migration has spiralled out of control. Over 150,000 illegal migrants have entered our country over the past few years, and most of them are young men. They are not fleeing a war. There is no war in France. And even if they were fleeing a war, what kind of men leave women and children behind? I do not want these people in my country. Only Reform UK will end this madness. But this Labour government is doing the impossible. They are making things worse. Now, you might have heard this bit before. Can you remember when Sir Keir Starmer said he wanted to release the sausages? Well, I thought he was joking. But what he actually did, he released some silly sausages and put them in his cabinet. So look who we have running the country. You've heard it, haven't you? Free gear here. Rachel from accounts. You know that one, don't you? Angela Rayner, the no-brainer. Mad Miliband, the net zero fanatic. And let's not forget about our very own mastermind, David Lammy. Just a few weeks ago at a conference, I made a joke about David Lammy, which I am big enough to admit when I get things wrong and hold my hand up and apologise for the sake of unity in our great country. And just to remind you what I said before I do apologise, I actually said, did you know there are over 6,000 villages in the UK? And if you took the village idiot from every village and put them into Tottenham, David Lammy would still be the village idiot. Well, conference, I must apologise. I'm being serious now for this outrageous statement, as I have received legal notification on behalf of 6,000 village idiots. They're telling me they don't even know where Tottenham is, and neither does David Lammy. The grooming gang scandal has cast a dark shadow on our country. Thousands of young girls been raped and abused in northern towns. Councils, politicians, police have turned a blind eye, and every single one of these people should be put behind bars. This spineless, pathetic government refused to have a full national public inquiry on the 50-plus towns that have been stained by this horrendous act. And we have to ask ourselves why. I think we all know the reason why. It's the same reason that the councils, the police, the social services and politicians have turned a blind eye. Think about it, guys. Young girls, vulnerable young girls from broken homes, raped and abused and tortured by gangs of men, and Labour refused to hold a full public inquiry. They should hang their heads in shame. I just want to give you a bit of a heads up as well, conference. Ignore the idiots online who criticise our great party. We have the most popular political leader in our country in my lifetime. We have Zia, our chairman, who is moving mountains to make us a real political force. And a special mention to my good friend Richard Tice, who kept this party going, and he's the reason I'm stood here tonight. So thank you to Richard Tice. This time last year, we had less than 15,000 members, polling around 10%, no money and no MPs. But in just 12 months conference, we've completely turned that around. We now have, I think it's 190,000 members. What about that? We've got 5 MPs, money in the bank, a brilliant new chairman and brilliant new treasurer, dozens of councillors around the UK. The brilliant Dame Andrea Jenkins is our mayoral candidate in Lincolnshire. And we've got over 1,500 fully vetted candidates for this year's council elections. It's fantastic. So, ignore the political experts that you see on Twitter who criticise us every single day. If they were so right and so bright, they would be sat in Parliament, but they're not. We are, us 5. But as our movement grows, so does the opposition to us in the mainstream media. But we're not bothered. We don't need the mainstream media. We've got social media. We get more hits with 5 MPs than all the other parties put together. It's truly phenomenal. But just a few years ago, I was voted the Backbench MP of the Year for the Conservative Party. What accolade that was. But that was nothing compared to another award I got just a year later, when the Daily Mirror voted me the worst man in Britain. Yeah. Still brings a tear to my eye. It was a close call that year, because in second place, hot on my heels, was Prince Andrew. It's true. But you know, last year at a national conference, I ripped up my TV licence reminder on stage. Well, I've not got another reminder to rip up tonight, but I'll tell you what, the bully boys have been round again. I've got red letters. They are threatening legal action if I don't pay my licence fee. I'm telling you what now, conference, I hope nobody's taping this, but I am not paying one single penny to fund the pension for perverts like Hugh Edwards. Conference, we've got a mountain to climb. We've got all the momentum. You know we have. You've seen it everywhere we go. Everybody's coming out and saying they want to vote for reform. It's absolutely brilliant. We've got local elections this year. Well, some of us have. Sorry. Well, what we're saying to you is, if they cancel your elections, which it looks like they're going to, we've still got elections up in the North and Midlands, and the People's Army will fight. They'll win those elections, and then in a couple of years' time, the army will come south, will come down the A1, and we'll win your elections for you as well. I can guarantee you that. At some stage, conference, we're going to have to take this battle to every single ballot box in the country, and we're going to win. The People's Army can do this. I know they can. I've been around a few years now in politics, and I've never felt so proud, so emboldened to be part of such a movement that is going to take our country back and save it. So what I want to say to you all is get involved, sign up friends as members, donate a few quid if you can, stuff envelopes, deliver leaflets, and then you know what? In a few years' time, you'll be able to tell your children and your grandchildren that you were part of a movement that helped take our country back. Thank you, conference.
Our very own MP for Common Sense, Lee Anderson. Next on the agenda is the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Member of Parliament for Boston and Skegness, Richard Tice MP.
it's a very, very, very special day. Friday the 31st of January. 5 years ago, this evening, exactly at this moment, some of you might have been with me because Nigel and I, we organised a small party for about 100,000 people, our close friends, in Parliament Square, celebrating Brexit Day. We must never forget that great day. Momentous moment. But of course, if you're going to do a job, do it properly. Or don't bother. And of course, we've been let down by the Tories. Have they done Brexit properly? No. You'll hear more about that later from Nigel. Now, arriving here this evening in the wonderful county of Essex, marvellous. We had a welcome, didn't we? Outside the gates. I've got a little secret for you, folks. Kemi organised it. I mean, seriously. You know, it's not going very well for the Tories, but then what would you expect? I mean, did the Tories, after Brexit, did they make you better off? No. Did they control our borders? No. Did they improve our health service? No. What did they do? Oh, I remember. They opened our borders to mass immigration. And they put in legislation, probably the most stupid act ever invented. Net zero. I'll come back to that a bit later. So quite rightly, the Tories were thrown out at the general election. Now, about a year ago, I introduced a new word to the English language. It's not yet in the dictionary. And I thought I was being a bit bullish by introducing the word Starmageddon. I thought, no, it can't be that bad. But can you believe it? I mean, how is it going, folks? Here we are, 6 months in. So, 7 months in, thank you very much. It's so bad, I've tried not to count. I mean, are they making our pensioners better off by stealing the winter fuel allowance? Are they making anybody better off with the blunder budget, where they've increased the national insurance contributions on employers? Is that making us better off? Is it making us better off by increasing regulations on small, medium and big businesses? Is that making you better off? Is anything they're doing making us better off? Does it make us better off, folks, to send £20 billion to spend that on carbon capture schemes that even the Green Party say don't work? Does it make us better off to spend 9, 10, 11 billion pounds on mad Miliband's climate change schemes overseas, sending it overseas? Does that make us better off? No. And now what do they want to do? I'm a real estate guy. They want to give away the freehold of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, who've never owned them. Never owned them. Normally when you give away a freehold, you actually sell it because it might be valuable. And they pay you. But under these clowns running the government, they've decided, no, we'll pay them. I mean, what sort of idiot does that? And how much are they going to pay? 10, 20 million? No. A billion? No. 2 billion? They want to spend £9 billion of your cash giving away an incredibly valuable asset. And hopefully, we're going to stop that. None of this stuff that they're doing is making any of us better off. It's quite remarkable because they came in promising integrity, transparency, and they've had glasses and suits and tickets. They came in promising they would fix the foundations. Have they fixed the foundations, folks? No. I'll tell you what they've done. They've sabotaged the foundations. Our economy is going in the wrong direction, fast. Growth has completely flatlined. I'm worried that we're heading towards recession. And the markets, the bond markets, are fragile and tense. And this could get very serious very soon. Jobs are down. Confidence is down. Investment is down. The only thing that's going up are your bills. Is that making you better off? It's a catastrophe. These people have no idea what they're doing. When we sit there in the Houses of Parliament, you listen to some of these people, and they're reading what they've been told to say. It's pathetic. I mean, if you can't stand there and have the conviction and the courage and the knowledge actually to say something that you believe in, not what you've been told to say, then frankly, I'm not sure you deserve to be there at all. But that's who they are. Not a single member of the cabinet has run a business, has lost sleep over whether they can pay the salary bill at the end of the week or the end of the month. And these people are literally ruining our country at every level, financially, culturally, socially. But don't worry. Apparently, you can trust the Tories. I mean, let's just remind ourselves, this is the party that put our taxes up to the highest level for 70 years. This is the party that, having got Brexit done, then didn't get rid of all the regulations that we could have got rid of to make our economy grow faster. Would you ever trust the Tories again?
Never.
I hadn't even said what I was going to talk about. But you're right. Never forgive and never forget how they opened the borders to mass immigration. I don't think the country will ever forgive them. And that's why something remarkable is going on. Because, as Lee and others have referred to, the momentum, the energy, the enthusiasm that is coming our way at all ages. I'm massively struck by young people, emails we're getting, being stopped in the street, 15, 16, 18-year-olds want to get involved, want to vote. It's fantastic. You're absolutely right. Do that again. That was marvelous. Woo! All right. And this is how we're going to win the next election, because there's going to be an energy at every single level. Because what people are working out is that it's only Reform UK that is going to make people better off. And ultimately, that's what matters. That is what matters. How are we going to do that? I'll give you a few clues. The first thing is, we've got to cut the vast amount of bungling, bureaucratic, unbelievable amounts of government wasteful spending at every level, across our councils. I mean, some of this stuff, I mean, it's serious because it's your money. But sometimes, even in politics, I mean, you have to laugh at the madness, because otherwise, we'd completely tear our hair out. I'm lucky enough still to have some. But my favourite is the bat shed. Oh yes, because the bright sparks that thought it was a good idea to build HS2, spend 100 billion on that, and then decide they're not going to build it, or are they going to build it? Are they going to put a station into London? No. I tell you what they'll do, they'll focus on the bats. How much money do you want to spend on a bat shed, folks? None? 100 quid? Anyone want to spend £1 million on a bat shed? You are a stingy old lot. Anyone want to spend 10 million quid on a bat shed? Would you believe how much they've spent on the bat shed? This is the bat shed of all bat sheds. £100 million. Seriously, on a bat shed. I call it, if you're a very sensitive disposition, block your ears. I call it the batshit bat shed. 100 million quid. I put a tweet out. I said, dear bats, we're putting a train line through your forest. If you don't mind, folks, could you just move the other side of the wood? Because we can't afford £100 million on a bat tunnel that won't protect you, won't help you, and you're not interested anyway. Love, Richard. Honestly, at every level, there's a story that's going to come out in the Sunday Telegraph this weekend that is going to make your blood boil about more extreme government waste. Look out for it. Wherever we look, there's wasteful spending. And as MPs now, we're getting whistleblowers come to us. And it is truly, truly shocking. Incompetence, woeful procurement, and I'm afraid to say, folks, fraud and corruption at every level. This net zero, I mean, it's the worst thing. It's the greatest act of financial lunacy ever imposed. It really is. Is net zero going to make you better off? Lee talks about Mad Miliband, but we've got Rachel from accounts, but actually, I'm not sure she is, you see. I think she's Rachel from complaints. Bless her. I mean, she's doing her best. But she hasn't got a clue. Is she going to make you better off? I'll tell you who make you better off. Nigel and all of us and Reform. I'll tell you why. Because we've been round the block. We've run businesses. We've grown businesses. We've made mistakes. I've built thousands of homes, employed thousands of people to build them, invested hundreds of millions of pounds, made money for shareholders. And I think we should run the country like you run a business. We need to start earning more than we're spending. Because if we spend more than we earn, eventually, folks, you go bust. And we don't want our country to go bust, do we? No. But that's where we're heading at some point. That's why the bond markets are worried. So instead, what I say to you is, only Reform UK, truthfully, can make us all better off. We know how to do it. We know how to cut the wasteful spending. And we know how to cut the daft regulations. And then we can afford to cut the taxes. And that's how you make businesses grow. You can't tax your way out of a crisis. We've got to grow out of a crisis. We've got to scrap the lunacy of net zero. And I tell you what, folks, we are winning that battle. The worm is turning, and Labour are beginning to panic. Be under no illusion. We're going to come under scrutiny. The media will come for us. They're digging into all our backgrounds. I mean, how many skeletons can we have in the closet? I've got a few. We've all got a few. We're all normal people. Have you got the courage to be with us, team? Yes. You sure? Yes. We need you. We need that courage. We need people to stand up and stand for us in elections. Campaign for us. Knock on doors. Leaflet for us. Because there is an energy, there is a momentum, there is an enthusiasm. Here, everywhere. And I absolutely promise you, with your help, with the help of everybody in all these branches up and down the country, I've no doubt whatsoever, we will win the next general election. So I say to you all, be with us, work with us, let's make Britain grow again, and ladies and gentlemen, let's make Britain great again. Thank you very much.
I now call the leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage.
We are the new kids on the block. We have no experience in this Parliament whatsoever, even though some of us have tried many times over the years previously to get here. So we can't judge you from working in this place, but we can judge you from the way the outside world sees you. Believe me, folks, this is just the first step of something that is going to stun all of you. Thank you very much. Nobody on the front bench has ever worked in private business. Nobody on the front bench understands what genuine risk capital is. Hard work is the only way anybody succeeds individually. And hard work is the only way we're going to have a chance as a country to turn any of this around. We're in much deeper trouble than anybody on either front bench dares to admit. You know, for a Labour Party that couldn't define what a woman was, couldn't define what a working person was, well, after today, I'm pretty convinced they can't define what economic growth is.
We believe that a society looks after its weak, but encourages everybody else to do the very best it can. We don't care about skin colour. We don't care about orientation. We care whether you share the values of this country. We care whether you obey the law. And we'll judge you on who you are. We'll judge you on who you are as a person. Isn't this what everybody wants? Is that what we're going to fight for? Can we make history? Are you going to be part of it? Thank you very, very much indeed.
You're right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Well, what a pleasure it is to be here in the North West Essex constituency, which just, well, some may say by sheer coincidence, but it's not, happens to be the constituency of the leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition, Kemi Badenoch. And that's why I'm here, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But first, of course, just have a think about this. Something truly extraordinary is happening out there. Something remarkable, something historic, something everybody thought was literally impossible. A new political party that started off 7 months ago with no representation in Parliament whatsoever, that made its first big step on July the 4th last year with 4.1 million votes and 5 seats. And everyone said, well, that's it. They can't possibly go any further. And here we are this week with 7 opinion polls showing that we now are consistently 3 points ahead of the Conservative Party and just a point or 2 behind the Labour Party. And we are achieving something. We are achieving something that is quite remarkable. And we've been riding a bit of a wave. And you know what? If we keep riding that wave a bit more, we really will surprise everybody come that next general election when we win it. Now, it is the 5th anniversary of Brexit, and of course I'm quite used to fighting against the odds. Indeed, for much of my political career and many of those long years that I spent in Brussels and Strasbourg, everybody said to me, you're wasting your time. you'll never get anywhere. Everybody agrees we should be in the European Union. The Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats, the Conservatives, the TUC, the CBI, the Bank of England, the BBC. And you're wasting your time. And yet, we built up a movement across this country which forced David Cameron, remember him? I tell you what, the history books won't. And that referendum happened, and I was able to go to the emergency debate in Brussels the day after the referendum. Quite extraordinary. I mean, I got on Eurostar, I got off at the station in Brussels. I mean, everybody hated me. It was quite extraordinary. And I did call it a non-country, you're quite right. And I wasn't wrong. And I so enjoyed going down into that chamber, and there was Jean-Claude Juncker, the President of the European Commission, a man whose drinking habits made me look like a Methodist. I was able to get up and say, when I came here 17 and a half years ago, I said that I would lead a campaign that would take Britain out of the European Union. And you all laughed at me, I said. But you're not laughing now. And it's the same this time. Everyone says we can't do this because it's impossible. Because it's never been done before. Because how can you go from 5 seats to winning a majority? And my answer to that is very simple. Something remarkable is happening in our country. We have lost faith with our political class. We know whether it's Labour or Conservative, we're pretty much getting about the same. And it will let us down again and again. And I think as far as I'm concerned, people know I've been warning for over 20 years that our immigration policies would not just devalue the quality of life of everybody in this country, and by that I mean housing, GP access, traffic on the roads, but would also lead to huge divisions in our society. I've been consistent and clear, along with my colleagues, that the lunatic net zero policies set up by the Conservative Party, now being followed by that fanatic Ed Miliband, doesn't believe in God, so he has to believe in something, and it seems to be it's climate change. And people know we've been right on issue after issue after issue. And I think also we're beginning to see a wave that is crossing the Atlantic from the east coast of America, where Donald Trump, standing on a platform, many of whose policies were not dissimilar to what we put to the British people in that contract last July, has won this incredible victory and got off to the most amazing start. And even those people that don't like him say, you know what? He gets things done. And the confidence in us that is growing is people say the kind of folk that are standing and representing reform have actually had jobs. Can you believe it? I mean, very few people in politics have had jobs, including the entire front bench, not one of whom has ever set up or worked in a private business. And people look at us and say, like Trump, these people will get things done. And believe me, we will. This is not just going to be an earthquake in British politics. This is going to be the biggest historical political change this country has ever seen. Now, at this moment 5 years ago, I was getting ready to go to Parliament Square, where Richard Tice and I had organised the big rally, and about 100,000 people turned up. It was an amazing event. And as the clock ticked down to 11 o'clock, I had the honour of counting down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, Bush. And the joy in the crowd was incredible. we'd achieved something remarkable. It was the greatest constitutional victory against the establishment seen for many centuries in Britain. It was amazing. And yet, where was Boris Johnson? In 10 Downing Street, rather pathetically banging a gong. And do you remember the faces of Michael Gove and Boris Johnson the morning after the referendum? They looked in total shock. They didn't really want to leave the European Union. It was all a game about who leads the Conservative Party. So 5 years on, I'm asked, inevitably, has it been a success? Well, look, constitutionally, it is a success. We are out and we will not be rejoining. That's important. That's fundamentally important. And I think in terms of foreign policy, we stand far taller on the world stage with Brexit than we ever did before. The nuclear submarine deal that we've done with the Americans and Australians wouldn't have happened as EU members. The lead we took over Ukraine, whether you agree with it or not, was not something we could have done under a common European foreign policy. The rollout of the vaccine, whether you're a vaccine fan or not, we were able to do being free of the European Union. And even Keir Starmer the other day had to admit that when it came to tech, AI, and Britain's future, we're much freer not being a part of it. So there are successes. However, many, many millions of people voted Brexit because they thought this was the way to take back control of our borders. And what have we had since? 130,000 young men crossing the English Channel in dinghies. Net migration going up in 2023 to 1 million a year. There are so many people out there who feel literally betrayed. But my message to them is this. They weren't betrayed by Brexit. They were betrayed by a Conservative government elected on the back of Brexit with considerable help from myself, who never, ever believed in it in the first place, who never really intended to deliver lower numbers coming into our country, and who thought they could get away with it. Well, folks, I'm back, and they won't get away with it. And frankly, they should never be forgiven for what they've done. And equally, millions of people out there working in business, some self-employed, some with their own businesses as directors, others working for companies. I can tell you that in every sector, from financial services through to fisheries, we had a realistic expectation that outside of the European Union, many of those crackpot rules would be removed. There'd be a simplification of the rule book. And actually, in many industries, things are worse than they were at the time. Brexit was the right thing to do. Getting back our sovereignty, control of our nation, of course, was the right thing to do. I look at the state Europe's in, and you think things are bad here. You want to cross the channel. And I know we've done the right thing. But to actually deliver what people wanted, we need a political party in government that actually believes in Brexit and will keep the promises that were made to the British people, and that party is Reform UK. Now our membership started really growing in December. A sense of energy, a sense of buzz, and somebody had this brilliant idea. Why didn't we put up a live membership tracker that people could, put on their phones or their computers? And just the act of this getting out seemed to encourage other people to do. They quite like seeing the tick, when they join. I must admit, I've become totally obsessed with the live stream ticker. Often getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's coming, sir. It's coming, sir. Your turn will come to speak in the years to come, I've no doubt. I know leadership bids when I see them, don't worry. So I've become obsessed with this, and we thought, well, actually, why don't we have a big push over Christmas, New Year? Because kind of, you know what it's like? Everyone gets together with the anticipation of a great Christmas. The first row happens at about 2 o'clock. Uncle Bill gets drunk for the 35th year in a row. So we did a big membership push over that period, and the numbers just really started to explode. And then on Boxing Day, we went through 131,860. And that number was significant because that's the number of ballot papers the Conservative Party sent out in the last leadership election. So we could say, without doubt, we now were the second biggest party in the country. What a Boxing Day present that was, until about 5 o'clock on Boxing Day evening. The Right Honourable Member for North West Essex decided to comment on the situation, and she was, I have to say, less than flattering. Now, what she had to say, I thought it was quite remarkable, really. She said, "It's not real. It's a fake. Cooked, coded to tick up automatically. This kind of fakery gets found out pretty quickly." Now, I wasn't very happy with this. And so we invited in some journalists from the Financial Times, from Sky News, from organisations not necessarily seen to be our friends, and they had a look at the system that counts our membership. And we use a platform called Nation Builder, which is exactly the same platform that the Conservative Party use. And everybody agreed that the numbers were genuine. So I asked, and look, I've been in this game a long time. You know, I'm big enough and ugly enough to take all the insults you can throw at me. I literally couldn't care less. It's the rough and tumble. There's a few queuing up there now, I can tell, but it's the rough and tumble of the game. But don't call me dishonest, because I'm not dishonest. And nothing actually could damage your reputation more than being seen to be dishonest and being a fraudster. So I asked for an apology, and there didn't come an apology. So I said I would take action, which people thought meant I'd sue. Now, I'm not very keen on suing, although I'm sure there are some lawyers in the room who think it's great, because they make the money and nobody else. But to sue, you have to prove actual harm. And the truth is, the sheer publicity that those tweets had given us probably got us an extra 20,000 members. So suing was not an option. I thought, well, the next best thing was to come and visit and meet my fake members in the North West Essex constituency. Well, I've got to tell you, looking at you, having met a few of you, you don't look very fake to me. You look very real. And I tell you what, the opposition should be bloody scared of you. So we've got county council elections coming up on May the 1st in Essex, or do we? Or do we? What I do want to say, and thank you for coming along on a Friday night in such numbers from this area, but what I do want to say is we do need more men and women to come forward to stand as candidates for local council and for government at whatever level. And after this event, there'll be tables outside where you can express an interest, and we will vet you, which we didn't do terribly well last time round. In fact, it was probably quite near a catastrophe, but never mind. It was a brand new organisation. I said I would democratise and professionalise this party, and we are doing it. So please come forward in numbers. We need good folk to stand up to represent their local community. Now, there are 1.1 million voters, eligible voters in Essex, who should be going to the polls on the 1st of May. And yet, the Labour government have decided they're going to completely change the structure of local government. They'll get rid of district councils and county councils, replace them by a series of unitaries. Essex will have between 3 and 5 unitaries, and then a mayor will be over the top of all of it. Now, whether you agree with these changes or not, and I'm sceptical, I've got to tell you, I'm very sceptical. I think that some of the smaller district councils that represent the more rural areas and the small towns will finish up actually being governed by the priority of the bigger cities. So I'm concerned about it. But whether we do it or not, shouldn't we have a debate about it first? Should we have a conversation about it first? And how extraordinary that it's the Conservative-led Essex Council that have asked for these elections to be cancelled for perhaps up to 2 years, when it's going to take at least 3 years for the changes to take place, and the term's only 4 years. There is not a single good excuse for any of the 20 million eligible voters in the English counties, not a single valid excuse for any one of them to be denied their vote on May the 1st this year. Not one. Not one. The rumour is up to 10 million people may be denied the vote. We don't know. The decision will come on Monday or Tuesday. We in Essex and elsewhere are readying ourselves to fight those elections. If they're cancelled here, we'll fight them hard elsewhere. We have a petition up and running saying, come and sign it. And within 24 hours, 160,000 people have signed it. We'll find out more nearer the time. But honestly, I thought only dictators cancelled elections. And why are they doing it? Why are they doing it? Because they're scared out of their lives of what reform is going to do at the ballot box on May the 1st. And so they should be. So we will battle on. We will continue to build our party. And isn't it great? Here in Northwest Essex, and I checked the numbers just before coming onto the stage, we now in this constituency alone have 490 paid up members and 460 registered supporters. That in Northwest Essex alone. And I tell you what, folks, I think we can build on these numbers. I think we can build on the now 190,000 to answer you from earlier. The now 190,000 that we've got. There is momentum behind this party. There is optimism and energy behind this party. And we know what we stand for. Family, community and country. They were the words that came into my mind as I travelled up to London in the car on the 3rd of June last year. As I was about to go on stage and end my happy life, my early semi-retirement, and to throw myself back into the political scene. I thought to myself, why am I doing this? What are the things that matter to me? And I think family, community and country doesn't just sum it up for me. I think it sums it up for virtually all of us in this nation. And we've had enough. We've had enough of weakness, gutlessness. We're sick of the education system poisoning our kids. We are unafraid to stand up. And I hope and believe that many things that will happen in America will serve as an inspiration to us. Woke is dying as we watch it in America, which I think is fantastic. And I really hope that the guy that's been put in charge of cutting the size of the administrative state, amazing chap. Do you see the rocket come down? And it was like Thunderbirds, wasn't it? And he's worth 450 billion or whatever it is. And he and I know each other. Elon and I know each other. Did you know that? Yeah. We've had the odd exchange here and there. It'll be fine. But if Musk is able to cut the size of the administrative state, to cut those terrible burdens put on men and women that want to go out on their own and set up their businesses, that will be an inspiration to us too. We are determined to fundamentally change this country. We are determined to turn around by 180 degrees this acceptance of failure, this cowardice in the face of the Marxist left, this devaluing of our history, of our identity, of our culture, of all that we are. We will never judge people, ever judge anybody by their color, their religion, their gender, their sexual preference. I'd rather not know. We want to live in a free, meritocratic Britain. And I know that when we get there, we're going to face the most incredible challenges. We'll face the teaching unions. We'll face the civil service. It'll be the biggest battle that's been fought in modern times. But unless we turn this around, all the things we value in this country will be gone. We are living in societal decline. We're living in economic decline. People are getting poorer. The streets are becoming less safe. Our kids are being told to be ashamed of who we are. We have to turn this around. And I believe with this party, right now, with the people we're gaining, with the enthusiasm I see here in the room in Northwest Essex, and I'll see it in Durham tomorrow, and wherever I go, we are on the verge of making our own form of history. I believe we can do this. Do you? Yeah. Are you with us? Yeah. How many non-members in the room? Hands up. Right. Don't let them out the door until they pay. But thank you for being supporters. And I want others of you to dig deep and think hard. Could I stand for the local council? Could I be the kind of person to represent the local community? Are you volunteering? Yeah, you're already there. We all know good to me. I need new people. I've got to stand up, guys. Stand up. Very good. There's 3 there standing up. Brilliant. Brilliant. And there'll be more. Thank you. Thank you, because that's what it's about. It's about engagement. It's about getting involved. It's about making commitment. We are the people's army, and we all have to do our bit, whatever that is, whether it's delivering a few leaflets in our streets, whether it's talking to our friends, whether it's going round the pubs. I've been doing it for years. It's not easy. We need to make you fishers of men. We need to make you go out there and spread this message that we are on the verge of something truly astonishing that will improve our country. Thank you very much indeed for coming along and listening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Good. It's lovely to see it. I mean, you know, it's just been wonderful. Brilliant. Right, over to you. I have to go.
The Q&A session. So we have about 5 or 6 questions. So Nigel's going to call out a name, and the microphone will be passed to that person to ask their question. Now, I'm sure you want to hear from Nigel more than me. So if it's a local question, come and see me afterwards, or I'll try and do my best. Right, first name, Nigel.
Yeah, we've asked people to put questions in earlier. We'll just take a quick half a dozen. I'm going to start off with Nathan, wherever he is. Is there a microphone? Nathan.
Good evening. What will reform do to help farmers that have been punished with the inheritance tax imposed on them when we win the next general election in 2029?
What is happening to the farming community, the assault actually on the rural community is appalling. Do you see that they want actually to make 10%? 10% of our farmland is going to be solar, and perhaps another 10% could be trees. I don't mind the trees, but I do mind the solar. And as for the inheritance tax level and the business relief that's been brought in, it shows a complete misunderstanding of how farming in Britain works. I was out, even in Clacton, there are 100 small independent farmers. And yeah, sure, the land value is high, but the income they get from it's very, very low. And these people are in tears because they want to hand this on to their children and their grandchildren. And if it wasn't for family farms and family estates, we wouldn't have the beautiful countryside in these islands that we love so much. So the whole thing, setting the levels where it is utterly ridiculous. It needs to be reversed. But you know something? It won't take a reform government to do this. The farmers are mobilising all over Britain, I'm pleased to say, and we're doing it. They're doing it in a concerted way. They're not quite as revolting as the French, but they're doing it. And Labour now have 100 seats in rural or semi-rural constituencies. I think the government will give way on this. We could argue the same for family businesses too. Yeah. You know, very different tax regimes now for family businesses hanging down. No, the farmers are going to get some big concessions on this. It may not be great, but it'll be a step in the right direction. But you have my absolute doubt we will be fully behind our rural communities in this country. We really will. Thank you, Nathan. Adam is the next up. Adam was next.
Yep.
Yep, you got it. Great.
So how are reform going to convert the net zero house builders that don't want to be caught up with the rest of the net zero crap that's going on around? So people that just want to build better homes but not worry about the wind farms and all the rest.
Well, nobody objects to better homes, and everyone knows that we need better insulated homes. And, you know, actually heat pumps can work on modern build homes. But Trump put them on a 1950s property, and they're a complete and utter waste of time. So do we want, I mean, look, the fact we're opposing what's being done in the name of climate change does not mean we're heathens, does not mean we don't care. In fact, I would regard myself very much as an old school environmentalist. So look, I think the balance there is not a problem. Perhaps an even deeper question is how do we convince a lot of people between 25 and 45 who've been absolutely indoctrinated in school that we're all going to be fried to a crisp within the next fortnight if we drive a Range Rover. So look, you know, you know what? Richard Tice and I tried 4 years ago to organise a series of public meetings around the country to warn about net zero. And we couldn't even get a venue to accept us. Nobody wanted to hear us. But now we're being proved to be right. So we will win this argument. And we have to have cheap energy. I mean, how can we have 6 times the cost of American energy? Is it any wonder? Refining's going, aluminium's gone, chemicals are going, cement's going. I mean, all these big industries cannot afford the cost. Steel cannot afford the cost of electricity. We have to have cheap electricity, and that means not importing gas, not importing oil that we don't need, producing it ourselves in this country. And the same goes for steel. Why not make our own rather than import it from India and China and elsewhere? So we will not back off on this one little bit, but I think with the builders, there are compromises and new builds we can build to very high environmental standards. Thank you. I've got a couple more. I've got Malcolm somewhere with a question.
Good evening, Nigel. We've heard all the empty promises from the Tories and Labour about how they're going to take back control of the borders. How does Reform UK intend to do it?
Well, 2 points. One is the illegal migrants that come into Britain. Even when the Conservatives tried with their Rwanda plane, you might remember the plane was on the tarmac, stopped by a judge at 10 p.m. at night in Strasbourg from the European Court of Human Rights, a court that was well-intentioned. After the war, we think of the Auschwitz commemoration this week, and we understand why these things were done 75, 80 years ago, but now serves no purpose other than to be activist itself. If we don't, I mean, it took us 10 years to deport Abu Qatada, right? We must leave the European Court of Human Rights and get back the ability to decide for ourselves. We must make clear that nobody that comes via this route will ever be given refugee status, just as Tony Abbott did in Australia back in 2012, and it started. You know, I mean, that was it. He towed the boats to Indonesia. He said you can't stay. Within a fortnight, the boats stopped coming. We can stop it. But the even bigger problem, and I know that the $5 billion a year cost, the unfairness of what's happening, the new shoes, the new clothes, the new iPhone, the pocket money, and goodness knows what else. Yeah, it rankles. But you know what? It's legal immigration that is changing this country more quickly. The population explosion, 10 million in 20 years, and the Tories even more guilty than Labour of this. We will have net zero, but not on climate change, on immigration. People will come, people will go. No population increase due to immigration from us. All right? And if that means wages go up, they go up. Two more quick questions. Ben is one of them. Ben.
Not if, but when we take Parliament, how are we going to finally implement Brexit?
Well, constitutionally, we've won. We're out. We're not going back. Although I do fear with Keir Starmer, he looks so happy, doesn't he, these days? I do fear with Keir Starmer, we'll get closer and closer and closer to a set of European institutions, and I fear that we'll start to mirror single market rules. And this, to me, will be crazy, because the closer we get there, the more difficult it comes to form something really constructive in trade terms with America. So, you know, there are no straightforward, easy answers. But look, don't worry, have confidence, we'll do it. What would you do?
Follow you.
Well, that's confidence. Thank you very much indeed.
And I think everyone else here would as well.
Thank you. Right, we've got one more question before we do some photographs. Justin, please.
Good evening, Nigel.
Hello.
Thank you for coming. Nigel, there's a lot spoken about President Trump building a phenomenal coalition around his last electoral campaign, and a lot spoken about that for Reform to emulate, they'll have to do the same. Any words on that, and anything you can share with us tonight as to what your vision and strategy is?
Yeah, do you know what? The old ideas of left and right are out of the window. They're gone. And we're redefining that. And the press can write about the threat to Kemi, the threat to the Conservative Party. Actually, what the polls show you, we're taking more votes from old Labour than we're taking from the Conservatives. What it's about now is whether you believe in your country, whether you think patriotism matters, whether you think borders matter, whether you think national identity matters, or whether you've got other rather more airy-fairy ideas about the world and how we should be governed. And you know what? We're actually the down-to-earth pragmatists. And we will build a coalition amongst ordinary folk who want their bills to be cheaper. We will build a coalition amongst men and women that run their own businesses. We'll build a coalition with all of those that currently serve or have served in uniform for this country. And we will. I promise you. Even this week, going into Buckingham Palace, the copper said, "Keep up the good work." And there'll be many members of the ethnic minorities that came to this country because they admired this country, came to this country because of the values, and are grateful for the opportunity that was given. Yes, there are some who wish to undermine it and destroy it, and we've got to be firmer and stronger about all of those things. I know Rupert spoke earlier about the grooming gang scandal, possibly one of the most shameful things I've ever seen in my life in this country. But I promise you there'll be many, many, many people who've come to Britain who work damned hard, pay their taxes and obey the law. We can build a coalition across left and right, across different ages. And I'll finish with this point. The other remarkable thing that's happened is there is a change of the wind in terms of political opinion amongst the under 25s in this country. They are beginning to reject the indoctrination they've had at school and university. And I see them, and I mean, the millennials were all about work-life balance and letting it all hang out. And I see lots of youngsters now that are driven, that want to get on, that want to have a car, want to get a job, want to make money. And I'm very, very encouraged by it. We get the youth vote, We will win that next general election. Thank you, everybody. Sorry. Yeah.
Give us a 1, 2, 3 cheer. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Right, who wants a photo with Nigel Farage? Now, this is for members only. Now, bear with us. We're going to do one row at a time. So we're going to start with the front. This gentleman here will tell you who to do. Now, the pictures are going to be posted on a public forum. So if you don't want to have your photo on the internet, don't have a photo. Right? We're going to start here with my helpers quickly get to the front and then go to the back to start signing people up and collecting money. Thank you very much, everybody.
Get to the club in my taxi cab. Everybody's looking at me now. Like, who's that chick that's rocking kicks? She gotta be from out of town. So hard with